Bugatti has been put in a position where if they don't do the right thing or fail to cooperate with Matt Armstrong, they risk losing their billion-dollar reputation because the world is watching every detail of this rebuild. Everyone knows Bugatti is a club for the ultra-rich. Sky-high prices, controlled parts, maintenance bills that sometimes cost more than homes in the UK, and their so-called millionaires don't even complain. It's shocking. Bugatti has been ripping off their own cherished customers in the greediest ways, but the truth was exposed not by the boardroom, but by a backyard mechanic, Matt Armstrong, who broadcasts everything online. Bugatti didn't see this coming. They never expected Matt to handle the repairs, and now the world knows their hypercars are built with cheap parts from Audi, BMW, and even Mercedes, then marked up millions. Before we go further, hit like if you love seeing manufacturers exposed, and subscribe so you don't miss the fallout. You'll want to see how this plays out. So let me paint the picture. You buy a Bugatti Chiron. You're not just buying a car, you're buying into exclusivity, into heritage, into engineering perfection that Bugatti promises is unmatched anywhere on earth. You hand over £3 million, maybe more. You think every single component in that machine is bespoke, handcrafted, developed specifically for that hypercar. That's what they want you to believe. Lots of parts aren't Bugatti at all. Headlights, Audi, gearbox components, shared platforms, airbags, standard supplier stuff you'd find in a fraction of the price German sedan. Even interior switches and electronic modules sourced from the VW Group parts bin, rebadged and sold as Bugatti exclusivity. Now, this isn't some conspiracy theory. Matt's showing the part numbers. He's cross-referencing them. He's literally holding up components and proving they're available elsewhere for a fraction of what Bugatti charges. And suddenly the whole illusion starts cracking. Because here's the thing nobody wants to talk about. Bugatti appears to be taking the mickey. They've built an empire on the idea that every piece of their cars is unique, rare, irreplaceable, but the evidence Matt's uncovering suggests otherwise. Many parts claimed as Chiron exclusive are widely available. The markups aren't just substantial, they're astronomical. We're talking about components that cost hundreds being sold for tens of thousands, simply because they have a Bugatti logo stamped on them. And this isn't just about markups. This is about trust. When you're in that ultra luxury space, your customers aren't just buying performance, they're buying a story, a promise, the assurance that what they're getting is genuinely exceptional, not just exceptionally expensive. Matt Armstrong exposes how hypercars use cheaper shared parts and multiply the price. This isn't marketing, it's greed at the highest level, and it has damaged Bugatti's image in ways they probably never anticipated. But this is where it gets worse. See, when you're Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, even Lamborghini, you have some level of transparency. Sure, there's parts sharing within corporate families, everyone knows it happens, but those brands don't pretend otherwise. Bugatti might be the only brand professionally ripping millions from customers without pushback, which is a serious concern. They've created a system where owners have no choice. You can't go to an independent mechanic. You can't source your own parts. You can't even get a quote without going through Bugatti's network. And because the customer base is so small and so wealthy, nobody's ever really questioned it. Until now. Matt's rebuild is doing something revolutionary. He's proving that these repairs don't need to cost a fortune. He's showing that the mystique Bugatti built around their servicing and parts supply is largely artificial, and he's doing it all on camera in front of an audience that's growing by the day. Think about the value versus reality here. You're told that replacing a Chiron's headlights costs £30,000 because they're specially engineered, thermally managed, aerodynamically integrated pieces of art. Then Matt shows you the part number. You look it up. It's a modified Audi component. The actual part, maybe £3,000. The Bugatti tax, $27,000. That's not engineering, that's extraction. And that's the part nobody wants to talk about. Because if you're a Bugatti owner, you've just realized you've been played. You've spent hundreds of thousands on maintenance, believing it was necessary, believing it was justified. Now you're watching some guy in the UK do the same work for a tenth of the cost, and it's working perfectly fine. The psychological impact of that? Devastating. Now, here's where this stops being just about Matt and Bugatti. This is an industry problem. It's not just Bugatti playing this game, it's the entire ultra-luxury car market. But Bugatti's the one getting exposed right now in real time, and they're handling it in the worst possible way. Radio silence, no comment, no cooperation, no attempt to work with Matt or address the concerns publicly, just complete shutdown. Matt's rebuild is accidentally becoming a consumer rights case study. He's not trying to take down Bugatti, he's just trying to fix a car. But in doing so, he's revealed a system that's been operating in the shadows for decades. And this is where it gets really dangerous for Bugatti. Their reputation is everything. Unlike mass market brands that can absorb a scandal and move on, Bugatti exists purely on prestige. They sell maybe a few hundred cars a year. Every single sale is built on the belief that you're buying the absolute pinnacle of automotive achievement. The moment that belief cracks, the entire brand is at risk. Bugatti have shot themselves in both feet. They could have engaged with Matt early on. They could have offered technical support, maybe even turned it into a positive PR story. Look, even when our cars are crashed, they can be rebuilt. Here's how our engineering works. Here's why our parts are specified the way they are. Instead, they stonewalled. They treated him like a threat instead of an opportunity, and now they're paying the price. The least impressive part of this entire situation, and this is the part that really exposes the scam, is how simple the parts actually are. We're not talking about bespoke carbon fiber monocokes or hand-assembled W16 engines. We're talking about headlights, airbags, interior trim pieces, the stuff that any car has, but that Bugatti's been charging hypercar prices for. That's the Uno reverse nobody saw coming. The parts that seem the most mundane, the most forgettable, are the ones that reveal the entire game. So where does this go from here? Well, legally, there are questions starting to circulate. Consumer protection laws in various countries have provisions against misleading pricing and artificial scarcity. If Bugatti's been telling customers that parts are exclusive when they're demonstrably not, that could open them up to serious liability. But here's what I keep coming back to, the human element. The owners who spent fortunes believing they were getting something truly special, only to find out they were just paying the world's most expensive brand tax. That's not just financial, it's emotional, it's betrayal. Would it be damage control? Absolutely, but it would be smart damage control. Bugatti's mistake wasn't using Audi parts, it was lying about it and charging like they didn't. That's the real scandal here. So here's where we are. Matt Armstrong continues rebuilding the Chiron. Every video reveals more. Every component he sources independently proves the point further. The audience grows, the pressure mounts. Bugatti remains silent. Because there's still the question of what happens when Matt finishes the rebuild, when he gets that Chiron running, registered, and on the road, when he proves beyond any doubt that you don't need Bugatti's service network to maintain their flagship hypercar. What then? Does Bugatti try to stop him? Do they issue cease and desist letters? Do they pressure part suppliers to cut him off? Or do they finally accept that the game has changed and they need to change with it?